bring up Planet Partnership CMO, Liza Darnell, and we have the VP of Marketing at Amy's Kitchen, Ritu Mathur. Come on up, guys. Have a seat wherever you'd like.
The options are endless.
I'm going to pull this out. Hopefully I won't fall off, but I want to be able to see both of you. All right.
This is the trickiest part.
Yes, the chairs are the ones that are the challenge. But well, anyway, ladies, thank you both for being here. And as I mentioned, they don't work together, although they did in the last positions that they had. But they really were going through very similar issues and dealt with them differently. And they had the issues, obviously, for different reasons, but there were a lot of commonalities. So let me first just start, Liza, we can start with you. Introduce yourself, a little bit about your brand, and some of what you guys are doing.
Sure. So, nope.
It should be on. Just,
Hello. Yep, there we go. So I'm Liza Darnell, and Planet Partnership, you may not know what it is, but we are a joint venture that is partially owned by PepsiCo and partially owned by Beyond Meat. So two companies coming together to kind of reinvent plant-based snacks and beverages, leveraging the technology, the scientific awesomeness of Beyond, and then Pepsi's really phenomenal commercial capabilities. So we formed last year, just a little over a year old, and I joined the company last fall. Then we launched our first product, Beyond Meat Jerky, this past March. So really quick from joining and forming a marketing organization very quickly and then launching a product about 6 months after that.
Great, Ritu?
Yes. Hello, is this on? Not on.
Just keep talking.
Yep, you're on.
On.
They got
Okay,
you.
okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ritu Mathur. I lead the marketing organization at Amy's Kitchen, and sort of the exact opposite of Liza. Amy's has been around for over 30 years. But in a similar fashion, they've never done any marketing before in the past, so I kind of came in to help build the muscle and to start actually building campaigns and kind of helping to grow awareness for the brand. So I think we thought this was an interesting dynamic between the two of us, because very different companies and different areas of growth, but kind of similar challenges.
Well, and talk about those challenges initially in terms of you both kind of came in. I know Liza, especially, here you have Pepsi, who they have certain expectations, and you guys are, the little guys at this point, a startup practically. So you had to sort of balance the two. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so both companies obviously have great awareness. Beyond Meat is a much smaller company, just under $500 million, but still a public company. Then you've got Pepsi, $70 billion global. Very different expectations, but both going after their initiatives with a lot of passion and a lot of drive. So for me, it was really interesting. I am employed by the joint venture. So I'm not employed by Pepsi, I'm not employed by Beyond. So we set up that purposefully so that we could have a blend of some employees from each company that we seconded, and then also have our own unique point of view to make sure that we were doing what's right for the partnership specifically, and not only what would be right for each parent company, which has been really tricky and lots to navigate. But I would say about this panel, this topic, it was for me really important to figure out what part of marketing I wanted to build in-house and have us have full control over versus what we wanted to lean into from our parent company's strengths. So for instance, Beyond, the brand strength of Beyond in the plant-based world is super strong, and we leveraged that brand for our first product. And so making sure that we were in keeping with what their expectations are, what their brand ideals are, and then at the same time saying, PepsiCo, I want to leverage their insights, I want to leverage their analytics, I want to leverage their shopper marketing. So where are we leaning into those pieces and making sure that we're taking those strengths, and then what are we doing internally and owning on our own?
And so for Ritu, for you, as you said, Amy's has been around for many years. It's one company, but the marketing side of it wasn't necessarily getting listened to, which I'm sure none of you have ever experienced that. And maybe the value wasn't necessarily there. So how did you have to sort of navigate those waters?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to come into an organization that has really strong brand. I think one of the most exciting things about joining Amy's was the strength of the brand, and the fact that they've built that brand without any marketing investment behind it is pretty phenomenal. But it was an interesting cultural dynamic coming into Amy's, because there was kind of the sense within the organization that they don't need marketing, they don't do marketing. Marketing is, literally had someone say this, propaganda. And so there was sort of this
Everyone
feeling.
knows that.
There was this feeling that we if you have a great product and your true intentions are to your consumers, like, you don't need marketing. And so that was a bit of an uphill battle of like culture change, education on really what marketing is, which is actually, for me, in service of consumers, and really actually trying to get consumers what they want, versus having to this idea of like twisting someone's arm to purchase something that they don't want to get. So for me, I've also just been at Amy's about a year. This year has been the epitome of building the plane while you're flying it, because there was a recognition that from the leadership that they needed to invest behind marketing, but there was no foundational structure around it. The team wasn't built to know how to build integrated planning or do a campaign or anything about paid media or any of those types of skill sets. And so I had to kind of educate the organization, build a team structure, develop all the brand foundations, strategy, target consumer. We didn't know who our target consumer was. There was no data. And do all of that while still trying to build a campaign and deliver some results to showcase and demonstrate the value behind the marketing organization.
Well, we could get into that then. So determining your target, who is your target audience, and then getting that strategy, building that strategy. Talk about that. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so on the brand strategy, I've done a lot of in my past, so that was fairly easy for me to do, just getting a group of people, some new people, some people who'd been at Amy's for 20, 30 years, and listening to what they thought the brand stood for, whatever consumer inputs we could get on what consumers thought about the brand, and sort of putting together a strategy. But on the organizational side, we just had no data, really. So building a target consumer, I was telling someone this earlier, like, we get love letters from consumers, they handwrite letters to Amy's, and so a lot of people just think those are our target consumers. Generally, if you're writing a letter and mailing it, you're an older demographic, most likely, maybe not fully representative of who the Amy's consumer might be, but that was all they kind of had to go off of in the past. And so in the beginning, we just sort of took a guess on who we thought our target consumer was as we were building a paid media plan. And then I was able to, as I started to get some more momentum behind the idea of marketing and some, inherent trust about my team and myself as I got to know people within the organization, I was able to invest behind a brand study and really understand who the consumers, the different consumer segments, and we identified healthy enthusiasts as our core consumer segment that had a good share of Amy's in their purchase behavior, but a lot of headroom still, so that we knew we could target that consumer. It was low-hanging fruit. They were already, in that world. They cared about natural, organic food. They were willing to pay for it, but that there was still a lot of headroom to grow for the brand within that consumer segment.
Before we get into the channels, Liza, you talk a little bit about your demo, and I'm sure being a part of Pepsi, obviously you think, oh, we have everyone, but maybe you need to hone in a little bit more for Beyond Meat.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because obviously there is no shortage of data, of course, that PepsiCo has, but not necessarily about the consumer that Beyond Meat has had, and their core consumer already. So we had an interesting challenge where even if our sales and distribution is through PepsiCo, huge expectations. Our the number of stores we're in more than doubled where Beyond Meat normally was. I mean, we're in over 80,000 stores. You can now walk in a 7-Eleven or a mom and pop liquor store and even find Beyond Meat jerky. If you can find Doritos or Cheetos, you can find Beyond Meat jerky there. So the challenge was we are going to be everywhere. The expectations are going to be huge, but we also know we're a niche product. And even if we got 100% of the vegan jerky market, we weren't going to meet our sales expectations. So for us, it was about needing to cast a much wider net, but not knowing yet who this product was really going to catch on with, beyond the either the core vegan or the flexitarians, and the people who are starting to explore. So what we did was we found a segmentation that we did to find 5 different addressable audiences. So everything from that core vegan to people who are maybe hunting and eating jerky, while they're out there. Very, very different groups. But we knew we needed to win with a lot of people within that spectrum. So we took these 5 audiences, then we did a campaign that we specifically created to connect with them emotionally, because we weren't going to meet them at the product benefit level because they were seeking completely different things. So we had to meet them at an emotional benefit level in order to do an efficient campaign that would talk to everyone. So then once we created that awareness campaign, we started to see who is it really resonating with, and started to create some product-focused assets that touched each of those different audiences and just measured where is it working, where is it not, who do we think we actually have some inroads with that we can continue to double down on. And so we've refined our audiences as we've gone, but had to come out with that initial campaign that was actually going to touch everybody. So we now are reducing our targets and understanding based on purchase data and panel data who do we really have a right to win with, and how can we find more of those people? But it's been
like
trial and
maybe
error.
The hunter isn't going to be the one coming in
You
buying
never
anytime.
know. You never know.
But, so once you honed in terms of, so then talk about strategy. So that at this point, where were you investing your dollars, and what were you seeing the most benefit from?
Yeah, well, we saw great results, interestingly, across all 5 audiences with our awareness ads. But then when we started getting into consideration and moving further down the funnel, we definitely saw some that were performing a lot stronger. So we pivoted, and where we didn't have an asset that was performing as strongly with a segment, we went and created quick custom, sort of like the personalization stuff we looked at earlier, some quick custom consideration assets to say, all right, if we message this a little bit differently, will they start to purchase, and what is the message that's going to find them? So we've learned a ton just by kind of reinvesting and re-architecting the message a little bit. But the whole purpose was to sell this jerky, but throughout the year it's been, how do we get more refined, because we have to learn as we go, and then we will double down next year in the areas where we have really seen that pick up.
And before, Ritu, I want to get into yours, but just who specifically are you going after now in terms of not only age, but out of those 5 that you had, what are the ones that really resonate?
Well, what's interesting is we're seeing a few different groups really purchasing for us. So we have our tribe. We have a group of people, we call them passionate thrill seekers, and they're buying jerky, and they are eating plant-based sometimes, and they are looking to always sort of be better throughout their lives. So that's kind of our tribe where we know we win with. But then there are lots of people eating for health benefits. Obviously with plant-based, there are lots of health benefits, who are older consumers, who have found this great, savory, easy to eat snack. So we've got a couple of different places that we are really winning with, and so now it's just figuring out how we tie those 2 together for next year.
And Ritu, for you, I know you obviously said you have your loyalists writing you the letters, but as you figured out in expanding the market, talk about the strategy there and who you really have honed in on.
Yeah, so before we did the segmentation, and I kind of actually knew, how to target and who we were targeting, and they actually skew a lot younger than what the company kind of thought they would, which isn't that much of a surprise. But before we had that data, for me, there was a bit of a tension point. I wanted to prove out the value of marketing, demonstrate the the revenue building potential of the work that we were doing, but then also, wanting to make sure that we are building for the long term and, building a use case, a case study, whatever it might be, to continue to invest behind marketing. So I kind of took the test and learn approach. We were talking about that earlier this morning as well. 12 test markets where we had high category development, low brand development, targeting those specific regions where we could actually measure lift, measure recall, whatever it might be, in terms of the metrics. And really, with tiny budgets, I had no additional marketing dollars other than what has been in the marketing department in the last 10, 15 years, which is not a lot. Had to scrape dollars together, and we put that towards this paid media plan. Not a lot of, the kind of the results side takes also dollars to measure lift and things like that. So we don't have a lot of those different metrics that we're going to be able to measure, but impressions, click-through rates, all of those things we could. And so we built a purely digital plan to try to get more efficiencies that way. And first time ever doing 3 ads, product ads that talked about soup, pizza, macaroni and cheese, and very scrappily done. We didn't show anyone's faces because that costs more money. So you see lots of hands and, just trying to figure out ways to kind of make it work. And we're starting to see some really great results. The campaign's still running right now, but we're outpacing our impressions and click-through rates are outpacing where we thought we'd be at the current point of this campaign. And it's, a bit of a low-hanging fruit because Amy's has never advertised in the past, so it feels like we should be able to continue to build that momentum. But I really wanted to take a more methodical approach to it, just to be able to continuously prove it out and demonstrate the value.
And I'll just jump in on that when you're talking about doing things scrappily, and just give one of the things that I've done, and I know like you've done this too, is find way, if you know what you need to get done, there's a way to do it that's a less expensive way. And a lot of times that's raising your hand and talking to people or talking to partners and saying, here's what I'm trying to do. Do you need a case study? Or do you have something that you're trying to prove out and you need, a brand to kind of play with a little bit? So I did that certainly on the PepsiCo side. I didn't have big Pepsi budgets, but anybody who had something they wanted to experiment on, I said, let's do it. If you can give me a cost break, or if you can give me some way to prove results of what you're trying to do, I'll leverage it because I'll get the learnings from it as well. And so I think, that's events like this and places where you can find partners who want to test and learn and want to try something a little scrappy and a little different. It's a great way to at least get some learnings if you don't have a lot of budget.
And before, I want one more question, but then I'm going to open up to you guys if you have any questions. But just in terms of learnings, you both have talked about learnings, trying new things. It sounds like the testing part of it, doing it small, and then maybe that brings internally the powers that be on board and taking it slow steps at a time. But just quickly, what have been the key learnings that you then are now taking moving forward? Ritu, if you want to.
Yeah, I think for me, coming in as a leader in the marketing organization, you kind of you want to make a splash, you want to make your mark. I had many moments where I was feeling completely overwhelmed because there was no foundation, there's no structure, there was no measurements, there was no data, there was no strategy. It was really from scratch. And I remember thinking, oh my God, there's just so much to do and so much, and it's exciting, but just overwhelming at the same time. And I kind of just had to keep telling myself, you don't have to do everything right this second. You can take time, and it's evolution, not revolution. And I kind of repeat that mantra in my head, and then do small, as we talked about, small little tests and prove it out over the course of time. And I feel like now, we're really at a inflection point. I think I'm gonna, knock on wood, but I think the company is ready to go bigger and to do more investment behind marketing. They understand the benefit. They understand why it's important. I mean, competition has really increased in the organic foods and frozen food space, and so it just feels like the right time to do it. And I think the work that we've done to kind of lay the foundation for this year is just going to be able to kind of unlock a lot for the future.
How about you, Liza?
Yeah, I think probably 2 things. One is getting clear on two specific things. One being what do you need to do? What must you do in order to have your year be a success, or in order to have your launch be a success? Like, what is one thing that needs to happen so that you can focus? And then also, what is the key thing that you need to learn? Because you can learn in a million different ways. You can always find learning, but what's actually going to help you progress? And getting really clear on, when I learn this thing, what will I do with it? So that you're not just inundating yourself with data or understanding that you can't actually use. So that's one piece. And then the second is, I call it with our leadership team, discerning agility, because we have two parent companies who want things from us all the time and want us to do, may have competing priorities. And we are also a startup, so we have to be agile, we have to be quick, but you can't do everything that everyone wants you to do. So you need to decide and really discern, where will you be fast, where will you be nimble, where will you test, and where will you really hold steady with what's important for you or for your brand, and not necessarily just for the other stakeholders.
Great. Do we have any questions for you guys? Excuse me.
Hello, ladies. Great chat. Thank you so much. I'm Sneha. I'm from Tata Consumer Products. Just thought I'll throw the introduction in. With regard to culture and mindset, getting into a new organization which probably doesn't have the history of a traditional CPG, how are you able to influence or be able to change that? I know now the results would probably help you for the next step, but the first baby steps, what were the challenges and how did you navigate?
Yeah, it was a lot of road shows, if you will, going to different teams, presenting. For me, it was presenting my vision for what I wanted the marketing organization to be able to do, what I thought it should look like, what the goals were of the team, and very simply, my biggest point was that marketing is in service of consumers, and that was a message I just kept hitting over and over and over again, because there was this sense of we don't need marketing is twisting arms kind of a thing, and to start educating people that that's actually not what it is. Brand management has a use case. It helps drive the business. It drives revenue. It creates focus and prioritization. And if I'm creating focus on the entree portfolio, someone who's in supply chain is going to see that benefit, because they're not going to get 30 million things thrown at them with differing priorities and kind of be trying to figure out for themselves where they should focus. So showing what my vision was and showing how it benefits others in the organization, and at the end of the day how it drives the business forward, were the things that I just kept trying to hit on. And really just I talked a lot to a lot of different people, and presentations and decks and one-on-ones and coffees and things like that, to just really start to get people to know me, to trust me, and then so I could kind of convey those different messages.
I think also you can get a quick win. Marketing is so vast. A lot of people who don't understand marketing think it's just advertising, but there are all the P's, there are all the C's, there's insights, there's analytics, there's so many parts of it that if you can find one thing that you can crack pretty quickly, or run a quick test in the first couple of weeks that you're trying to do something, and show a little bit of value and show a little bit of the breadth of what marketing is too, and just find something fast, whether it's the big nugget or not, and people will start to sort of catch on and see the value.
All right. Well, thank you guys. A big round of applause.